LiveCast today, Doug and Cindy, and we're going to answer a few more caregiver questions today. Thanks for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about caregiver burnout, and we're going to go over a situation we talked about just a little bit yesterday and go into a different part of it. So before we do that, I wanted to thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your comments. We've had a lot of comments and questions in the comment section. This is on Facebook and on YouTube and on our blog. So please go to one of those, the blogs at helpmehelpmomma.com, and enter your comments and your questions. And we really appreciate that. And I know your fellow family caregivers appreciate it as well. So today, caregiver burnout. Cindy and Cindy started this earlier, but we had a signal problem, but we're starting again and redoing it from scratch. So if you was with us a few minutes ago for a minute and we faded out on you, we're back. This time there's both of us. So let's start again.
Okay. So I want to read this. We went over part of this yesterday, but then as I went back through it, I thought, there are so many things in there that we really need to address. So I'm going to start with the first sentence. This comes from Hannah. Excuse me. And Hannah says, my husband and I took on the responsibility of caring for my 92-year-old mom after the doctor said she could no longer live alone. Okay, so that brings up a couple of things. Doctor said she could no longer live alone. Does that mean a lot of times the doctors say she needs to go directly to a nursing home? And I would disagree with that. Doctors know a lot of things, but as we found out when we attended a conference in early December where doctors were getting training, we realized that the doctors aren't really aware of everything that's out in the community. So, do you need to deal with that?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Just
turn on the
video.
Okay.
Here we are. Here we are on YouTube. Hi, YouTube folks. We're here.
Okay. We are talking about several issues that revolve around caregivers and caregiver burnout today. So for the benefit of the YouTube channel here, I'm going to reread this first sentence. My husband and I took on the responsibility of caring for my 92-year-old mom when the doctor said she could no longer live alone. And my comment was that oftentimes doctors will say, your mom needs to go to a nursing home. Well, there are other options. And that's one thing that Hannah, the author of this particular email, stated, was that they looked at assisted living facilities, and it was not an option for them because mom couldn't afford to pay for it by herself, and to qualify her for Medicaid to pay for that level of care would drive her into poverty, which it is true with that particular level of care around here. But my point was that I wanted to make was the doctor said she could no longer live alone. And I appreciate when doctors say that, because they do assessments to determine physical and cognitive abilities of your loved one. And that helps them to determine if they would be safe in their own environment. So I appreciate that, and you should appreciate that. What I don't appreciate is when doctors automatically say they need to go to a nursing home, because there are other options, and that's why you are here, and that's why we are here with you. We want you to know about all of the different options.
And that cuts both ways. I was just visiting with a lady earlier today whose husband was in the hospital and then in a acute care facility, and he actually needed more care, and they was trying to basically kick him out of the facility before he was well. And she was saying, no, he's not well. So we see this going both ways, like this doctor here saying, oh, he needs to go to a nursing home, and then the other extreme, like booting them out of the healthcare system before they've received maybe all of the therapy they need. But the point is, you're their caregiver, you are their advocate, you know them and their situation much better than anyone. And the medical people know their stuff. They know the results of the test and, having talked to them, but they don't know near as much as you do about your loved one because they're your loved one and you've been with them all these years and you know them and you know their situation much better than a medical person that's been around them for a few days. So,
or a few minutes.
Or a few minutes, yeah. So, be there and talk to them and tell them what you know, your wisdom and what you know about the situation. The goal is not for everybody to fight each other, but for everybody to come up with as good a plan as possible for the benefit of your parent or your loved one that's in the facility.
And for you. And that's another point that Hannah makes. She goes on to say that she's caring for Mom now and her family agrees. She agrees along with her brothers that as long as I can do this and Mom is comfortable with this arrangement without harming myself, we will take care of her. And when it comes that we can no longer do this, we will look for a good assisted living facility for her. That's very important. That goes right along with some of the things that we were talking about yesterday. If you do a plan and you plan to care for your loved one, yesterday we talked about a lot of the financial things, the ramps, the widening of the doorways, things that increase utilities, increased food budget, things that you need to think about if you're going to bring your loved one into your home with you. But Hannah goes on to make a different point here. She says, so I have to say, I understand that you have to try to be a caregiver, is what she's alluding to, but only if you can really feel as if you can do the caregiving and it will be good for your parent and that it doesn't harm you or your family. You talk about some of the things that change when you bring a loved one into the home, like we brought Mom into our home. Think back some of the things that changed.
Well, and I've gone through this twice in my lifetime. When Cindy's mom came into our home, and when I was a kid, my grandpa came into our home for about the same amount of time, just a little over a year, when my grandmother was developed Alzheimer's, and he came into our home for a while. And both situations were similar. We loved my grandpa and Cindy's mom. They were welcome in our home, and it wasn't a problem, but it's just different. It changes the family dynamic. And so it doesn't work in every home, in every situation. In some homes, in some situations, it works great. And a lot of times, in most situations, having read a lot of your comments and your posts on Facebook and YouTube and on our blog too, bottom line, y'all just make it work. Okay, this is the way it has to be for this season in life. We're just going to make the best of it and make it work because this is just the best for our parent and the best for our family, and this is just what we have to do. So sometimes you just have to do things like that for a period of time until that stops working. And when might it stop working? Well, it might stop working for a number of reasons. It could be that the person needs more care than you can provide at home. If you bring them in your home and you're still working, well, then during the day, they may not be any better off than if they were in their own home because there's no one there. They're in your home, but husband and wife both go out and work. And maybe if there's teenagers or older kids in the home, maybe they're in college or whatever, and they're gone. And so mom's home alone anyway. She's in your home, but she's home alone during the day. So what about that time? Well, maybe you got to have caregivers come in or other family come in. That can be a problem sometimes if mom had other kids, which are your siblings. Are they going to want to come to your home to take care of mom in your home? Or will they just say, oh, well, you got this, you do it, and won't want to come in to help?
And mom's in a strange environment. So, it's like with my mom. She wanted to go outside and garden every day. So we had to make sure that it was safe for her to get in and out of the house. With you, you may not have enough bedrooms. So now the living room becomes her bedroom. things change. What you eat changes. The schedules change. Everything changes. So you really need to stop and think about this.
And so sometimes it just doesn't work because, or it works because you make it work, but sometimes the condition changes. And I mean, that happened with Cindy's mom. Got to the point, and she got to the point where she wanted her own space and, wanted to be in her own home. And I understand, I don't blame her. Sometimes you try experiments with family members and you're there for a while, and sometimes you want to be in your own space. But even if you go back to your own space, if you got to have care during the day, there's the expense of caregivers, family caregivers coming in during the day, coordinating with other family members coming in and out, which is quite a scheduling task, just to make sure everybody's on track. And you got to make sure the money's there, got the money to pay all of these family caregivers. So there are a lot of considerations when someone's health starts declining. And in a situation like this, like Hannah was talking about, you just do your best, try it as home as long as you can, but be open to how your family feels about it, and open to how your parent feels about being in your home. You got to consider, how do they feel? Are they comfortable with this arrangement, or are they kind of feeling stressed because of this? Would they be more comfortable back in their own home with caregivers, or would they be, as Hannah points out, maybe an assisted living facility? Would they be more comfortable in an assisted living facility where they can socialize with others their own age? And and I see that a lot of times. A lot of times people say they want to stay at home and feel that way initially, but at home during the day, especially if they're home by themselves all day, it's just them, or maybe it's them and one child, and that's it. But if they're in an assisted living facility, they can socialize with many other people their age, play bingo, go out and do things, and some people just honestly enjoy that type of situation a lot more. So this is where you just got to have a good, honest talk with your parent. And, sometimes assisted living will let your parent come out and spend the day, have a meal there. Some of them will let them even spend a week or so. And
it's called respite. They pay for that.
And yeah. And so just to give it a trial run to see how it works.
So thank you, Hannah. We appreciate bringing up all of these issues. The last comment she made is make sure it doesn't harm you or your family. And as we mentioned, you bring someone else into your home, it does change the family dynamic. The last thing that I really want to talk about here, and she talks about, you don't want to harm yourself. So we're going to talk about what that means.
Burnout sign. And that's what we're going to talk about next time when we get together, because there are several burnout signs. How do you know that you're burning out, and how can you tell that? Like I say, you got to be attuned to how your parents feeling. Maybe that they're burning out, that they love being around you and maybe your kids, and but sometimes it's stressful for them to be in your home, and maybe it's better for them to be somewhere. So you got to look at all of this stuff. So next time on Help Me Help Mama LiveCast, we're going to talk about caregiver burnout.
So if you would give us some input.
Please do. Give us some input, please. Comments, questions, and share this with someone that you think it would benefit. And we'll see you on the next edition of Help Me Help Mama LiveCast. Thanks for joining us today. Have a good day.